Today, we're going to be ranking all the weapons in Warzone, but before we do that, just keep in mind that this is my personal opinion, so if you disagree with something and believe a weapon should be in a different spot, just let me know down in the comments because I'm curious as to what you guys think. And I am recording this on May 1st, so if you are watching this in the future, these rankings could be completely changed by now because I do know some of these weapons are supposed to be getting nerfed soon. Starting with the Cold War AK-47, I'm going to put this up in the viable tab, but before Season 3, I would have put this down in the trash because the recoil pattern was just absolutely horrendous, but they did improve on the recoil pattern a lot, so I do think it's a viable secondary now. The Modern Warfare AK-47, I think it's all right. I mean, you couldn't use this really as a secondary at all, and for a primary AR, it's just got too much recoil to be good at longer ranges, but then again, it does do a good amount of damage. The AMAX, I mean, the AMAX is definitely meta. This is the best AR in the game right now, but Raven Software did say they're going to be nerfing the AMAX soon, so it might not be the king much longer, but I think even after nerfs it could definitely be off meta, but I guess we'll just see how everything plays out. Then the AS Val, I'm going to put this in can compete / off meta. I believe it has the quickest time to kill at close ranges, but it does not have a very big magazine, so you basically have to reload after every kill. If it did have a bigger magazine, it'd definitely be up here in the meta, but the smaller magazine size is the only thing holding this gun back right now. The AN-94 here is kind of hard. I'd kind of have this right in the middle of viable, and it's okay. I'll just throw it in viable. With the AN-94, its first shot shoots out 2 bullets, so if you hit those first 2 bullets, it's definitely viable, but if you miss that, it's not going to be all that great, and the time to kill is going to be a lot slower. So if you got good aim and you can hit that first little double shot, is definitely viable, but if you don't hit that first little double shot, I'd say it's okay because the time to kill is going to slow down a lot. So this one's kind of hard to place, but I'm going to keep it in the viable tab. The FAL, I'm going to throw this in the it's okay category. If you throw a VLK on it, it can actually be pretty decent at long range, but using the FAL as a SMG, how it used to be meta back in the day, just it won't work. It can't compete with these other guns that have quicker time to kills and faster strafe speeds now. The Farah 100% meta. This thing's got a quick time to kill and the strafe speed with it is nasty. This is the best secondary in the game right now, and if you pair it with an AMAX, it doesn't really get better than that. But this is another gun that Raven Software said they're going to be looking into nerfing, specifically the ADS movement speed, so it might not be the meta for very long. The FFAR, we all know, got nerfed a few times, but I still think it's the off meta and it still can compete. It's just not quite as good as it once was. The Farah is basically the new FFAR. The FR556, this might surprise you guys a little bit, but I'm going to put this in the viable. Any of you who watch JGod know why I'm putting it here, but basically if you use this as a single shot weapon, it's got low recoil and a pretty decent time to kill, and it's really fun to use, but if you're trying to use this thing as a burst, it's trash. So we're just going to assume people are using this as a single shot weapon, because if you are, then I definitely do think it's viable. Then we got the GRAW. The GRAW is one of my favorite games of all time in this game. My favorite meta was probably the GRAW meta, but right now I just think it's just viable. I mean, it still has basically no recoil, but this thing does kind of shoot BB bullets now, so we'll just leave this in the viable tab. Then we got the Groza. The Groza is kind of hard for me. It's one of those ones again where it's between viable and it's okay. I'm going to throw it in the it's okay tab. It did get nerfed pretty hard with Season 3, but before Season 3 it was really good. I'd put it in the off meta before it got nerfed, but now it's just not as good as it once was, so I'm going to leave this in the it's okay category as a secondary. The Kilo. I love the Kilo, but the Kilo is just not as good as it once was. We're going to keep this in the viable category. It's still pretty good. It's just at long ranges it shoots BB bullets still, so we're going to leave this at viable, but this thing still does have no recoil. It's pretty comparable to the GRAW. The Krig 6, I know a lot of people love the Krig 6. I've used it a good amount, but personally I just can't see it being the meta right now. I do think it can compete and it's off meta. It's really good now after the buff, but I just don't think it's quite good enough to be meta. The M13 is one of my favorite guns of all time in this game, and it really kills me to put it here because it's one of my favorite ARs in the game, but it's okay. It's got literally 0 recoil, but it literally shoots Nerf bullets, so if they buff the damage on this thing a little bit, it would just be insane, but unfortunately it shoots little BB bullets and it's all right. The M4, another gun that I really love, but it's not quite up there. I'm going to put this in the viable category. category. The Odin, I'd say it's okay. I used this the other day and I actually had a lot of fun with it, but it's just got a small magazine, shoots kind of slow, but it does do a lot of damage. The Ram 7 is kind of hard for me. I've been using this a lot lately. I think it's right between viable and off meta. I'm gonna put this in viable though, as much as it kills me because I've really been enjoying using this gun, but at a close to medium range, the Ram 7 just shreds. But it's hard to use as a main AR because at those longer ranges, the damage just really isn't there. But this gun is really good and I would put it slightly above the Grau, Kilo, and M4 if I could. Like I said, it's kind of right in the middle of these two categories here, but we're gonna leave it at viable. The Scar, I mean, the Scar is just trash. I would not use this gun at all. This thing is doo-doo. I've seen a lot of talk about this XM4 now as a secondary. Now, I haven't personally used it as a secondary yet, but a lot of people are saying it's really, really good. But it's hard for me to just go off of what people are saying, so I'm gonna put this in the viable tab. But it could be off meta. I just haven't really experienced using this gun much, and I don't want to go off of just what people are saying. I'm kind of going off my own personal experience here. So for now, I'm going to be leaving this in the viable category as a secondary. The Bruin, I definitely think the Bruin is off meta and can compete. I think the Bruin is very good still and it's really fun to use. I'm actually kind of surprised we don't see a lot more people using the Bruin, to be honest. The Fin LMG here, I think this thing's just trash. It's doo-doo. I would not use it at all. Same with this Holger. I think it's trash. Along with the M60, another one I just think is completely trash and I just would never use. And again, another one, the M91, another trash gun. I wouldn't use any of these guns personally. And then another one, we got the MG34, just trash weapons, and I really wouldn't recommend using them. The PKM though, the PKM is really slept on. This gun is really good and I'd put it in the off meta category. The only downside to the PKM is very slow reload speed because it is an LMG and you only have those massive magazines, and it's unlike the Bruin where you can put a 60 round mag on. But I do believe it has a little faster time to kill than the Bruin, but then again, that reload speed is really the only downside of this weapon. The RPD, I think this gun's all right. It's okay. I don't mind picking it up off spawn. It's a decent ground loot weapon for me, and even if it's kitted out, it's all right. The SA87, I haven't really had a whole lot of experience with it, but from what I've heard from people, it's all right. I was tempted to put this in the trash category, but I've heard it's okay, so I'm going to keep it there. The Stoner 63, definitely off meta. It can definitely compete. It is really, really good. It's got a fast time to kill, and it's got a barrel that you can put on it, which will actually destroy cars insanely fast. I think it's called the cavalry barrel, where you just put a few shots in a car or a helicopter and it's taking that thing down. We got the Cold War and Modern Warfare crossbows. I mean, these are memes slash niche. If anyone's ever using a crossbow in this game, they're just memeing. The EBR is just trash. I would never recommend using this gun at all. The Kar 98 though, the Kar 98 definitely meta. It's my favorite sniper in the game right now. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the Kar 98. The MK2 is another trash gun. I would never recommend using this gun ever. Along with the SKS here, another trash weapon, would not recommend using. The SPR, I love this gun. I think it's off meta. It's really fun to use. It's just not quite up there with the Kar 98, but still one of the best snipers in the game. It does have a little slower ADS speed than the Kar 98, but it does have better bullet velocity. It kind of does what the Kar 98 does, just slightly worse in my opinion. The AK-74U, I'm going to put this in the viable category. It's just not quite there, but it's still pretty good. The Modern Warfare AUG, the SMG, this thing's just trash. I would never use it. The PP Bison from Modern Warfare, it's okay. The time to kill is kind of slow, but it has its uses. It's all right. The Bullfrog, I would definitely put up here in the meta. This is one of the best SMGs in the game right now, and I couldn't recommend it more. A lot of fun to use, has a huge magazine, good time to kill, and very good movement. The Fennec, I do love the Fennec. It's got a pretty fast time to kill, shoots super fast, but you just run out of ammo super quick with it. So I'm going to put this in the it's okay category. The ISO here, I haven't heard this name in a while. I think it's trash, just not there. It's just not very good. Along with the KSP 45, I think this thing is just poop. The LC10 is really, really good now. I'm going to put this up in the meta. It's pretty comparable to the Bullfrog, but it does have a lot smaller magazine. But the LC10 is just one of the best SMGs in the game right now. Then we got the Mac 10 here. The Mac 10, I'm going to put this in the meta as well. I've been loving this Mac 10, even though it did get nerfed. And the reason I'm putting it in the meta is because there's actually a class setup with this Mac 10 that makes you run faster when you have the gun out than you do when you have your fists out, which is actually just crazy. crazy. So the movement speed on this thing is crazy, and it's still got a really good time to kill. The Milano here, it's all right. It's okay. The time to kill is pretty slow, but it doesn't have any recoil at all. So we're going to keep that in the it's okay tab. The Cold War MP5 is really good. This thing is fun to use. I'm going to put this in the off meta. It's got a super fast time to kill up to, I think it's 10 meters, but anything after like 10 meters, this thing does kind of fall off, and it has a good bit of recoil. But if you're within 10 meters, this thing is just going to shred people. Along with the Modern Warfare MP5, I'm going to put this in the off meta. It's still really good. It's just we have better options now. That's why no one's using it. The Uzi, this thing's trash. We're just going to throw that in the trash tab. And then we got the Cold War AUG. Now we all know how good this thing was, and it did get nerfed pretty hard, but I think it's still up there in the viable tab. It's still definitely really good, but it's just not quite up there anymore. The nerfs did hit it pretty hard, so I'd say it's viable. And then we got the DMR up next, and I'm sure we all remember DMR Zone. It was a dark time in Verdansk, but this gun is still really good. I'm gonna put this up here in viable. It's just got a lot of recoil, but if you can manage the recoil, it's definitely viable still. The M16 was right there with the AUG. I'm gonna put this up in viable. It's still pretty viable, but it's just not completely broken as it was before season 3, so we're gonna leave this in the viable tab. It's still really good, but not completely broken like it was before. The Type 63, we're gonna put this in the it's okay tab. It's basically a slightly worse DMR is what it is. The 725, this thing's trash. I know this thing was completely broken in Modern Warfare multiplayer when the game first came out, but in Warzone, this thing's just not good. We're getting into shotguns now. In the Gallo, I definitely think this thing is viable. It's a lot of fun to use, but I also feel really toxic when I'm using it. The Horror is a hard one. Now I think it's trash, right? But it could go up to the it's okay category, because if you're at point blank range and hit a headshot with it, it could one shot someone that I think has 1 or 2 plates, but other than that, it's just completely useless. The Jack 12, I love using the Jack 12. I think it's definitely viable. I mean, it's a full auto shotgun, and you just can't go wrong with a full auto shotgun. The Model 680, this thing's trash. Wouldn't ever use it. The Origin, I think it's okay. I don't know how many of you guys were playing the game when Origin was meta, but that meta was not a good time. It did get nerfed a lot, but I do still think it's okay. Along with the R90, the doof with the fire rounds in it, this thing got nerfed a lot too, but I do still think it's okay. Then we got the Street Sweeper here. Now the Street Sweeper is really good. I'm gonna put this in the off meta. It definitely can compete. It's basically a better Jack 12, another full auto shotgun. The only downside to the Street Sweeper here is the reload speed is insanely slow with it, which is good because it keeps it kind of balanced. The VLK Rogue, I think this thing's okay. The AX50, I'm gonna put this all the way up in the can compete / off meta. The AX50 is really slept on, and it's a really good sniper, but there is just some better options out there. The Dragunov, we're gonna put this up in the meta. No, I'm just kidding. This thing is trash. Don't use the Dragunov. It is bad. The HDR is kind of a tough one for me. I want to put it in meta, but I also kind of want to put it in off meta. You see a lot of people like Iron using the HDR. It's really good for those people who use like recon strat and they just kind of play positioning. So in that case, it's definitely a meta sniper. But if you're more of an aggressive player, I'd say it's off meta because it's just kind of slower, making it hard to use if you're playing really aggressive. But for what it's used for, I definitely think it's a meta sniper. The M82 here, I would say this thing is okay. The ADS speed with it is super slow, but if you do get stopping power rounds in this thing, it can one-shot someone to the chest, which is just crazy. But the ADS speed with this thing is just ridiculously slow. The Pellington as well, I'm gonna put this in the it's okay category. It could be really good for someone who's playing aggressive with a sniper, but the bullet velocity on it is just trash. The Rytech, I think this is more of a meme gun here. If you put those explosive rounds or fire rounds or whatever on them, I think this is just more so a meme gun, and it's just kind of fun to use if you're messing around. The Tundra, I really love the Tundra in this game. I'm gonna put this in the off meta. It's got really good bullet velocity, scopes in decently quick, and if you're using a 4x sight on it, it doesn't have any glint. The only downside to the Tundra in my eyes is the idle sway. Now, one thing I've noticed about this chart is we don't have the new Psychov pistol pistol, the PPSH, or the new Swiss K31 sniper. But for the Psychov pistols, I would put this up in the viable tab. I think the Psychov pistols are arguably the best secondary you could have on your Ghost class. And then the PPSH, I'd put it in the it's okay category. It's not as good as I really hoped it would be. I was really excited for that gun. I thought it was going to be meta, but the time to kill is just not there. So I'd put it in the it's okay category. Along with the Swiss K31 sniper rifle, I think that belongs in the it's okay category as well, because the Swiss K31 is basically a Kar 98 but does everything slightly worse, so it's okay. Pistols are going to be a bit hard for me to rank because I don't have a lot of experience with them, but I mean the snake shot, the magnums, this thing's trash. I did have a lot of fun though with the snake shots when they were meta, but they are just completely trash now, along with just the normal magnum here, just complete trash. And the deagle here is trash as well. I would never recommend using any of these. Now the rest of these pistols, I feel like they would be okay if you dual wield them, so I'm going to throw all these in the it's okay category, because having these dual wielded as a secondary is not a bad option for your Ghost class. But like I said, I just don't have enough experience with them to properly rank them, so that's where I'm going to kind of throw them. And then we got melee weapons. I mean, obviously that's a meme class right there, along with the riot shield. It's just a meme, just kind of fun to use when you're just messing around. The Sigma, I don't see any reason to use it at all. This thing is trash. The Joker, I would put this in the memes category. It's just kind of fun to mess around with, but I mean, it's kind of trash unless you're just locking onto a heli or something like that. The M79, the China Lake, this thing's not good at all, but it is more so of a meme. It's just fun to use. A grenade launcher, but the rockets again are really hard to rank because I mean, I guess they are kind of all niche, so I'm just gonna throw the Pila in niche. If you really want to be locking onto vehicles, I guess you'd use the Pila. The RPGs used to actually be meta back when the game first came out. A lot of people actually used to run just like an M4 and an MP7 with an RPG, but you don't really see any RPGs nowadays, so I'm going to put these in the niche category along with the Strela. I know the Strela used to be basically hit scam, but I think they fixed that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are my final rankings. This was actually a lot harder to do than I thought it would be, but let me know down in the comments what you guys think of the rankings I did for all these weapons, what you would change. And if you did like this video, please consider dropping a like, and if you are new, click that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate that, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Here's the web. Peace.